Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. Creation tools allows you to record and edit your broadcast so it sounds great. And they even distribute your broadcast for you so that it can be heard everywhere. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. So make sure you download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. This is FET News with Daren Frett. Hi, hello everyone. This is your host of Future Educators Talk, Daren Frett here, and here are your FET News for today. So today, I am back. Yours truly, Daren Frett, is back for this. I'm back on the podcast. As many of you know, that I've been gone for about 2 weeks now. My last was back in November, so I am back now. Also, Damian Anderson is out. He will be out for the remainder of December. He will be back in January of 2020, so he'll be back next year. Plus, we have on the broadcast, we have our very own guest co-host, Mr. Kwame will be joining Future Educators Talk all month long during the month of December, so you might want to tune in for that. And also, brand new episodes comes out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, so make sure you tune in, and make sure you follow us on all of our social medias. On Facebook at Future Educators Talk with Damian and Daren, Twitter at Future EDU Talk, on Instagram at Future Educators Talk, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at Future Educators Talk with Damian and Daren, and make sure you tap that bell so that you will be notified when brand new episodes comes out. So make sure you tune in for that. Also, Brunch Talk with Daren Frett is coming back with a brand new time starting Thursday, December 12th at 10:30. Yes, that's right. Brunch Talk with Daren Frett. Many of you have been, many of you have been asking, but Brunch Talk with Daren Frett is coming back on Instagram Live with a brand new time starting Thursday, December 12th. Also, FET Twitter Live is also coming back as well. That is coming back on Tuesday at 10:30. Plus, Brunch Talk with Daren Frett Twitter Live, that series premiere will be Wednesday, December 11th at 10:30, where your host, yours truly, Daren Frett, will be talking about Monday's episode. So, also, Coffee Talk with Damian Anderson is also will be having a new date and time coming in 2020. So make sure you tune in for that. Well, that is all I have for you for today for FET News. So make sure you listen to Monday's episode of Future Educators Talk. Good Monday morning. This is Daren. I am
your co-host, Daren Frett. As you can see, Jeremy Anderson is still out for the month. Don't you worry, we'll be back next year. Today, we have Mr. Kwame. He continues to co-host with us today, as will be for the remainder of December. And we have a special guest. Now, you may remember him because he was on last month. Yes, that's what I'm talking about, Mr. Luther. Yes, he is coming back for today's episode and Friday's episode. So, welcome back to the broadcast.
Thank y'all. How y'all doing this morning?
We're doing well.
All right, doing good Monday morning. So today we're going to talk about teens suicide. We're going to talk about teens suicide today. First and foremost, but what is first? I'm going to start off with Mr. Luther, since he has.
Yes.
With Mr. Luther, since he has witnessed or dealt with teen suicide. So I'm going to start off with you. What is your
this past week, one of our young men that we knew who played basketball for our school, he committed suicide. But this suicide wasn't due to any bullying or, he came from a great home. His parents were always involved. His mental health is really what took a toll for him. He was just, from his words, he was stressed. He was more stressed because of the situations that he was in. I mean, like I said, he comes from a good home, but just the neighborhood that he stayed in. And he said it was just so much pressure. Like everybody was just trying to pull him this way, pull him that way. I mean, the man had a great future. The young man had a 3.6 overall GPA. The man scored high on his SAT. I mean, he had it. I'm not calling him the golden ticket, because that's not what he looked at it as. He knew that he was going to be able to get out of that situation. He had a full ride basketball scholarship. You're doing things that a lot of people in your neighborhood couldn't do. And I guess the pressure just took a toll on him. And it's come to find out that he hung himself.
Wow.
And so as a coach, devastating, but at the end of the day, it's just one of those things that it wasn't, most of our kids, if they are suicidal, have suicidal thoughts, what sticks out most to you is because they're being bullied. That's always the number one factor. I'm being bullied, don't nobody like me, things of that nature. This young man wasn't in neither of those categories. Just the mental illness in his mind or whatever he was going through at that time just took over, and I understand what mental illness means, but to actually be able to experience that through that young man, it's more deeper than that. Because I remember you took a break because you were getting yourself together. You get what I'm saying? And so I've never doubted or, made people feel less of who they were because of the state that they go through. But that one hit home. When you were off the air for a little bit dealing with what you were dealing with, it hit home because, you were active always. You get what I'm saying? And we would always see a post from you, but you had to focus on you. And I guess just like that, it took a toll. So, but the kids now understand that this just doesn't have to deal with being bullied. This can just be something of everyday life situation. You can start having these thoughts because there's a lot of things that are going on that maybe you're not ready, and you feel as though if I just take my life away, then I'm good to go. But that's not the case. So that's how we handle that right now.
Wow, it's interesting you mentioned that because it's not even just kids who are going through suicides, because with suicides they manifest themselves in different ways, just as you mentioned. But maybe last year, because I follow, I'm a fanatic, so I follow a lot of sports, and even in the players trip, players like Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan. These are like NBA superstars who are at the height of their careers. These are perennial all-stars, have millions of followers who look up to them, and for them to say, with all this success, that they get depressed because of the heightened level of expectation that they have to put out on a daily basis when they get on the court. That was telling, because for us, the average basketball viewer, you're thinking, you know what? These guys have it made, they got the money, and yet they still end up depressed. So if it's happening with adults, I can't even imagine what it's like for young people, particularly teens who have these expectations. Because even as athletic as a coach, right? I'm sure you're a basketball coach. You have certain players on your team who are being looked at by scouts. They probably play AAU. So when you're in that, and I'm sure those guys, I'm sure they're looking at their rankings every day. Like, you know what? I'm comparing myself to these other players who play for other AAU programs or other states, because when you look at just sports media, they put so much emphasis on rankings and all these other metrics to compare different players at such a young age. How can you not ignore what's going on? So I can't even imagine what they're going through, because that's just a lot of expectation. And you have to look at the fact that for some of these kids, they may be the first person that will go to college. They may be first generation college students potentially. They may be a breadwinner family if all goes well, and all they have to bank on is their ability on the court. That's your ticket off the hood for some of them. So we look at the expectations, we look at the socioeconomic levels for some of the students. Not all, but a good number of students, especially those who look like us. That really plays a role in just the anxiety and just the amount of pressure that comes into play, and the trauma. So I definitely hear where you're coming from with that.
And then too, like you said, now we talking about NBA superstars, right? But let's look at me, for instance, black male teacher. You know what I go through every day on a daily basis? But that doesn't mean that I go home and have thoughts in my mind. You get what I'm saying? Yes, the job is stressing at times, but I have to be the bigger person, and I have to set the right example even when times are tough. And I'm talking about even when the times are tough in the classroom. So my method is this. I'm not going to go home and stress out to the point to where this takes me to a road of darkness, if that makes sense of what I'm saying. Because a lot of teachers get into this field and feel as though this is something they really want to do. And then when they really get in the midst of it and really get in the deep of it, then they decide that they just have a breakdown.
Yes.
If you understand.
No, I'm with you. Because,
And then some of these teachers, and then some of these teachers decide that because of this mental breakdown that I'm going through, this is how I'm going to act in this classroom today. And so I'm sitting here and I'm like, as a black male teacher, no matter what the race is, I'm not a racist person. Like I've said on every episode, I would support any and every ethnic group in the world. But as a black male teacher, we get so much put on us as if to say we are supposed to be the Superman and the Batman of the world.
Yep.
And that is not the case, because I have a life too. And the more pressure you put on me, then the more tired that I'm going to be mentally, not physically. We're talking about mentally I'm going to be tired because you're not sending in the resources or you're not wanting to help me. You're just feeling like I'm supposed to be this savior. But because of what I see and what my kids come from and what they deal with, I don't let it bother me. But everybody is not like that. And so now we have to take the same energy. As a black male teacher, I feel I got to take the same energy that I use every day and instill that into my kids. My kids can come talk. They come ex teacher when they're going through these suicidal thoughts or these mental breakdowns. No, they can't, because most of the teachers don't want to hear it. So we'll start having we're getting more suicidal deaths than anything. But that's because everybody needs to start coming together and stop just pinpoint, well, I'll deal with that kid because I like that kid. That kid don't give me no issues. So anything that they go through, I'm going to talk to them. But you're not even thinking about what my man's going through in the back. You don't even know what his home situation is. And then when he starts to act out, first thing you want to scream is, oh, he's a disciplinary issue. How? You don't know what he's thinking in his head. And then 2 weeks later, this young man done killed himself because nobody wanted to listen to him. Nobody knows he's abandoned at home. Nobody knows he's probably being abusive at home. You know, things that everybody doesn't come from those situations. But we had a good situation.
Yes.
But then let's go to the bad situation.
No, it's very serious.
This thing is serious.
And it's situations like this that brings up that pretty much qualifies the reason why we need to really focus on social emotional learning in our schools and also restorative practices, man. Like, honestly, it's situations like this that pretty much warrant these programs taking place in our schools. You know, because we have so many kids coming to us with baggage, emotional baggage, all types of trauma. And you know what? The only outlet they have and sanctuary they have is that classroom. Being around their friends, around adults who they can trust. And those are things that are granted, you know, because already there's so few of us in the profession, you know, as there is. And I mean, you know, the amount of pressure that weighs heavily on our shoulders when we're trying to do this work. We also know that we have to, you know, maintain our presence. We have to, you know, stay strong, you know, for our kids, because if we're not in the game, we can't be of any service to them. You know, so I do like a lot of these schools, man, they need to really focus on really investing in restorative practices and social emotional learning, and not co-opt the terms, because in some districts it's pretty much co-opted. They say it, but it's not being done with fidelity. They just kind of go through the motions because, you know, maybe they got a grant from a university, or maybe, you know, they're just trying to, you know, put out this window dressing so that it creates the perception that they're all in on these programs when in actuality they're not. So, man, we really gotta, you know, look at it from that standpoint, because there's some teachers who, you know them, they probably in your schools too. They're just coming in just to simply do their job, and they don't really take the time to get to know the kids, you know, on a personal level. You know, it's just pretty much all business. You know what? We gotta get rid of these tests. We gotta get ready for these mark assessments that's going to determine whether or not I have a job next year. That's kind of their mentality. But the thing is, how can these kids perform if they don't if their mental and emotional, physical state is not up to par? You know what I mean? So that kind of goes back to, you know, we always talk about this idea of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as well as, you know, Bloom's taxonomy. We always hear this saying, we have to Maslow before we bloom, right? You gotta those basic needs before you can get to the academics. I mean, look at the brother, Akbar Cook in Newark, what he did at his school. He transformed the locker room into a laundromat because he recognized that at his school and they won't come to school because of fear of that. And then on top of that, he creates a lights on program where kids come to the school every Friday. The school's open on Friday nights, every Friday. And they play a whole bunch of games as a way to get off the streets and to protect them from the gun violence that was taking place in Newark. Like, imagine in place, the suicide rate would probably be off the wall if he didn't take those measures. So,
exactly.
It's possible, but we need more school leaders and more school districts to, take the time to, really look into these into this issue of suicide and the issue of mental trauma and all these other things that are tied to it.
Yeah. And not just, not just having professional development about how to run your classroom. You know what I mean? Let's have professional development really about mental illness. You know what I'm saying? Let's have professional developments about, how can we prevent the suicides from our students? Why we can't have those type of things? How about all the brothers? I don't care if the brother stay in Delaware, Mexico. I don't care where he stays. We have to be on Me Talk. I love to be on Me Talk.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to that conference in Atlanta, right? Let's talk, let's come together as brothers. You understand what I'm saying? And let's do something about this. I don't care if you've been in education for 50, 58, 60 years. If a brother coming in as a first year educator, even a second year educator, let's still build them up. Let's still help that brother. Let's all come together, because people want to use years and titles to make it seem like they better than the next person. They even do it in school. That's not what this is about. It's about our children. Our children are killing each other, and you're up here telling me that you got your PhD. I don't care about that. What are we going to do about these children in our school? Then put your mind and put your brain and your experience with mine, and let's do something for these kids. You want you want the recognition? Have it. I don't care. You get what I'm saying? I don't care. You want the recognition? You can have the recognition. But are those kids going to get what they need? It's not about clout. It's about getting our kids to where they got to get to. You know what I mean? Like, this education field is something serious. But you know what? If you gonna stand up and you gonna be a man about something, then stand up and be a man about these kids. If that means I got to stand up to you in a professional manner because you're not doing what it is for those kids, then that's what I'm gonna do. I don't care what their background is. You would rather paper trail those kids than to help them. I don't believe in that.
Nah, I
don't believe in the paper trail.
No,
because the paper trail gonna get them in jail.
That's the reality of it. And to even take your point further, all those points are valid. Here's the thing. Most districts can't afford to have a guidance counselor or a social worker in each and every school. Know this for a fact. So given the fact that there's already a shortage of social workers and guidance counselors in our school districts nationwide, that's even more why we have to pick up the pieces and really step up in terms of addressing the mental state of our children. We don't have the professionals in our schools who can do that. We don't have that type of staffing in most of these schools. And it's not even a case, right? In some cases, not a case of, it's not even a situation where, you know what, we don't have the money or the funds to get these professionals. Sometimes the way that the money is allocated in some districts is not a priority. Let's keep it real. They're not thinking about bringing in social workers and stuff because guess what? It's not cost effective. So, so we have to look at, when you talk about mental health, man, there's so many things that intersect when you talk about you can't talk about mental health without talking about just having the right professionals to address these issues. I mean, it ties to so many different things that are wrong with our education system.
Well, to me, I'm with you on that. That means that somebody needs to step up. You understand what I'm saying? You know what? I'll do a PD. You ain't even got to charge me to do it. You understand what I'm saying? Let forget about the money. I will come to your school and I will do this for your teachers, no cost. Because if this is what it's going to take, then that's what I'm willing to do. My job is to teach history, right? But if I got to go guidance counselor mode to set up a plan for you to get where you got to get to, then that's what I do. Because we already at the school darn near 48 hours a day, right? So if I got to go the extra mile to make sure that my kids get what they need, then guess what? That's what I'm willing to do on my own. Because at the end of the day, we still got to help guide them.
You're right, but you know, you and I, we're kind of similar in that regard, because especially when you're like one of the only few or the only black teacher or black male teacher in your building, you turn out to be the one that is doing it all because you care so much. You look at these kids, you understand these kids at a level that no one else can. Result, you go the extra mile when it comes to your job. You go beyond your job description. You put in the extra hours. You might even sacrifice a weekend. But here's the thing here's where it could potentially backfire. And I've been someone that's doing it throughout my entire career. Right. Sometimes we're human too. We get tired. And we ask ourselves, man, I wish somebody else can show some of this load, because you know what? I got a family too. I got a wife, I got a son. I would love to spend more time with them, and I'm all about sacrificing and giving up some of my time for the better good. I'm all for that. But if I know that if we're supposed to be functioning as a team, if we're supposed to be promoting a positive school culture, right? I shouldn't be the only one that should care about what's going on. It shouldn't just be me. It should be about the entire my team, the entire school. We should all have that mindset when it comes to addressing our children. And then finally, if I'm exerting so much energy trying to save our children, trying to help our children, then where's my mental state? Where is my mental state? Now I'm starting to get sick. Trying to help some of our children who are sick internally, sick mentally, and because of overexerting myself, I've now become sick. And now someone's got to come and help me. Who's going to help me out? Because if no one helps me out, then if I can't help myself, how am I going to help my kids if I'm not helping myself? So that's where self-care comes in. Right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But a lot of people don't think like that. You get what I'm saying? And then on top of that, you have two males at a dominant, area of what they love to do. And the good thing about it is I'm giving you my insight and you're giving me your insight, but we're coming together about the same thing. You get what I'm saying? As opposed, when you see other people do it, it's about, who got the, well, no, I don't agree. Like, that's not what this was not for me to fight you for. You get what I'm saying? I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. And this is what we do in front of our kids. And now they looking like, what's the problem? Because I said this and you acting like you can't agree. I never did anything out of my mouth say I don't agree with what you're saying. Even though you're saying it differently, we are both saying the same thing. So since we're both saying the same thing, let's sit down together and come up with a plan. That way, when we come up with a plan, since we normally have we have faculty meetings, hey, we can sit down with the secretary. I need to speak with our principal ASAP. Let me know a day that he's available to speak. Then we can both come in together and say, principal such and such, this is the plan that we came up with to help our kids. At the next faculty meeting, can we discuss this so we can get everybody, to be a part of what we're doing?
I got a question. Now, when you look at education today, when you look at how it's evolved over the past 25 years, because I'm going back to when I was in elementary school. We only had to do one test. That was our state test that happened maybe in March or April, near the end of the year. It was cumulative. But we weren't sweating. We weren't really sweating about it though, because it wasn't like the Super Bowl where, you know what, as soon as you come into the school year, all you hear about is the test, how we have to prepare for the test, how everything that you do impacts your ability to do well on the test. That wasn't the case 25 years ago when I was a student, at the school. So now NCLB happens.
I'm with you.
During the Bush administration. Now there's an increase in standardized testing. Now you have teachers who have to be highly qualified in order to even get a teaching job. Now schools have to achieve adequate yearly progress every year. The AYP goals in order to stay open and not be taken over by the state in which they're in. If NCLB did not exist as we know it, do you believe that there will be more of an emphasis on social emotional learning? Do you think that it would probably minimize the amount of suicides that take place in our schools if that didn't happen? Because I do believe that it's had a significant effect on this mental state, not just of students, but of teachers. So I just wonder if we were to take that out of the equation, would that change what's happening? Just put it out there.
Well, it depends on like you said, it depends on the state. So like my mom, she was a reading coach at an elementary school, and exactly what you just told me, bro, they closed their school down. But here's the funny thing though. She was the reading coach, right? Out of her years there, guess what, bro? And this is real talk. The third graders were the most crucialist ones for the test. It wasn't even the fifth grade, it was the third graders. Here's the jacked up part about it. Out of all the third graders, bro, you finna laugh when I tell you this. 85% passed reading and math. And you still close the school down.
Wow.
85% passed. Talking about reaching goal games. You understand what I'm saying? My mom is, when it comes to that reading, my mom don't play, but the reading coach, the math coach they had too was on the same page with my mom because they understood what was at stake, and you still close the school down. And on top of that, there were teachers in there. Yes, they had some kids who really wasn't that was that other like 25% who wasn't really, that other 15% that wasn't really good at standardized testing, but their portfolios, y'all, was on point. They understood it. They just wasn't good with standardized testing. But you get them in the classroom as far as getting what they needed to get, man, their portfolios was on point. And then you close the school down because you said that the third graders didn't reach a certain level. Well, that was a lie. Because then when they presented it to them, they didn't know what to do. But because you closed down a historically black school, you weren't finna reopen it anyway, even with the proof that they had. You understand what I'm saying? So I feel as though if there was no child left behind thing, I'm with you on that. Because when I was in school, it was the same thing like you. They weren't bucking about no tests like that. It wasn't about that. But at the end of the day, though, if I got proof if I got proof that my kids are getting what they need to do through their portfolio, they can go on to the next grade. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let that teacher know this is his strength, this is her strength, these are her weaknesses. This is how you might want to. I'm not telling you how to teach your class, but with these particular students, you might want to do A, B, and C. That way, when you bring everybody together, guess what? Everybody on the same page. And now you ain't got to stop your lesson to take those kids over here while the other, you understand what I'm saying? Everybody's involved now. Now you're not disconnecting the classroom because of this and that and this. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I feel like this. If we're doing what we got to do and those kids are performing, then what you about to NCB, and then we good.
I only brought that up because I feel like as teachers, particularly teachers in the United States, I can't speak for other countries, but there is an overwhelming amount of pressure that's placed on us to perform. And it's even heightened when it's Black teachers. And more specifically, Black male teachers, brothers, right? So I always wonder, well, there might be, and it's not an excuse for why it's not happening, but I wonder, well, gee, there are probably some teachers who wish in their utopian world that they could be that teacher that could pull a kid to the side and just take 10 minutes out of their instruction to address a child without worrying their mind and impact their ability to pace the curriculum. Because you already know, you have scope and sequences. We got to get through this many standards and objectives by a certain period in order to get them ready for an assessment. That's the pressure that's put on us. So every of the day is crucial. And depending on what state you're in, the tests have a huge bearing on job security. You know what I mean? So yes, as much as we would like to, focus on social emotional learning and be able to take a day to not have to, to not even focus on academics, but just focus on, what's good with you? How are you doing? How's your mama doing?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I understand. This is probably your 5th foster home. How are you holding up? Where is there conversations during our instructional periods? You know what I mean? So I just wonder if we weren't so focused on trying to keep our jobs so we can stay in the game for the kids, how much more effective can we be in terms of being those therapists that we need to be for them? The big brothers, the mothers and the fathers that we need to be for them.
I'll be honest with you. I've done it. And my principal came in and I kept doing it. And you know what he told me? He was like, man, he said, I ain't never experienced a teacher like you. He was like, because even though I had walked in your classroom, he was like, you was giving it to him straight. He was like, man, I commend you on that. He was like, and the work that you are doing, I can see an increase in these students' grades. But guess what? It wasn't about that. At the end of the day, you said, I'm going to take time out to see how you're doing. Especially if you came in my classroom all jacked up from the next period. Oh, nah, we ain't finna have that. Like, I was the only person that'll play music. But I ain't talking about, like, that classic Colin. I'm talking about, like, Nipsey Hussle, like, the clean version. You get what I'm saying? Because, like, I heard, like, my best friend, he put me on Nipsey, right? But I wasn't really on Nipsey, if that makes sense. And so one night, man, I woke up, man, it had to be about 2 a.m, bro. One night I just woke up and I got on my iPhone and I just started down. This how crazy it was, man. I went from Nipsey, Kendrick, and J. Cole, all in that sequence, right? And I'm sitting here listening to this, and I'm like, okay. I said, man, I'm finna bring some powerful stuff to my classroom. And then I love Wale too, so I put Wale in the mix. And so I'm like, okay, we finna, you get what I'm saying? And my kids, they like, Coach, who this, Coach? I said, man, that's Nipsey. They like, oh, Coach, this brother spitting some stuff, man. Like, what's up? Hey, how can we listen to this again? Do what you got to do. And then within like that last 15 minutes of class, we'll go ahead and we'll start looking at the lyrics of what these things really mean and who he's really talking to and why he's talking like he's talking. You get what I'm saying? Now, I did, exclude the cussing part, but what I'm saying is we were breaking down the lyrics. And they like, Coach, I'm going through this in everyday life, Coach, like, because I love history. And I tried to propose something to my principal about doing a hip-hop history class where kids could pick from U.S. government, American history, or they can do the hip-hop history class. Of course, you already know how that turned out to be. Well, some of the kids don't listen to that, and I'm like, it's all good. But I'm still going to promote that because hip-hop is a history. Mm-hmm. It's a culture. And I feel you can get a credit for that too. Everybody don't want to hear about American government. Everybody don't want to hear about what happened in 1862. Come on, man. Like, let's talk about NWA. Let's talk about Sugar Hill Gang. Let's talk about how it started, why it started, and what did that culture mean.
Public enemy.
Like, let's go deep into hip hop.
Listen.
Exactly. Let's go deep into it. But they ain't trying to support that. But if I told you I want to do a cooking club for home economics, y'all would be like, yeah, we can surely get our kids to learn how to cook and clean and stuff. No, man, like, let's go. Let me teach my kids about the real hip hop history, baby, how they got started. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just gives me hype, man. But once again, that's something, I find it
amazing because hip hop, because me being a hip hop head, I feel like the way that we go about business is hip hop. You know what I'm saying? It's more than the music. It's an attitude. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's a culture. It's the way that we bring presence to our being. You know what I mean? In the classroom. But what's crazy is people dismiss hip hop, but yet it gets culturally appropriated by white America. Hell, look at. They say we don't want hip hop in our classrooms, but guess what? We got vocabulary. White folks. I've seen white folks, man, in the classrooms rapping over vocabulary videos, and they getting praised. Okay. They're like teachers of the year. And I'm thinking,
okay.
Really?
Okay, and we've been doing this. We've been doing this in the classroom, but when we do it, it's a no. That is not how we want to. We want you to run your classroom and things like that. Wait a minute, bro. Cause dude, four doors down the hallway doing the same thing, and you just went up there and gave him did a handshake, and y'all was doing the whatever you wanted to do.
Yeah. But I think what's up? I think going back to just because we're talking about teen suicides, I think sometimes as teachers, even though our primary job is to provide instruction and to deliver content to students, I mean, that's what's in our job description. Ultimately, we have a job to preserve the humanity of the students as well. Because they're coming because they're starving for something. They're starving for structure. They're starving for normalcy. They are starving for something that they're not getting in their homes, in their communities, in their neighborhoods. And they come to us seeking that normalcy. So it's our job. So here's the thing. If we can't be ourselves in the classroom, how can we preserve the humanity of our children if we can't even be ourselves? So if that means playing some J. Cole, playing some Kendrick, if that means taking 20 minutes out of class because you recognize that the kids just aren't feeling the lesson. Like, listen, I understand that they got a test in 2 weeks, but you know what? If I don't get past this funk, if I don't address it right now, I'm not going to get any type of instruction done. Period. They're not about what I say if I don't take the time to address this very issue. And if we if more teachers had that mindset, like you said, of just not caring about what others might think, just said and done. Because guess what? We all have circumstances that might hinder us from taking a risk that we would like to take. But if we had more teachers that just were like fearless and just said, listen, I gotta do what's best for my kids, as opposed to, you know what, clearly I'm doing this lesson, it doesn't feel right, and I know this lesson is boring and the kids aren't feeling it, but guess what, if I don't do this lesson, I'm gonna get in trouble by my principal and my supervisor and my administrator. But you mentioned something. You said that your principal came into your room and said, "Man, I've never seen a teacher like you," right? What if there were more principals that just allow you to just be you? If there are more schools just allow their teachers to just be themselves and give them the autonomy to run their classrooms the way that they want to, and still achieve the goal that you want them to achieve as teachers in your building. Man, but depending on who the principal is, yes, some who are micromanagers, and then there's some who are more hands-off. They'll just let you do what you need to do as long as you get the results at the end of the day. However you get there. They don't care how you get there, but just make sure you get there. If we have more teachers, more principals like that, so right now I live in Ethiopia, but before that I've taught in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Specifically Philly. And most recently I was in Boston, Massachusetts. So I taught in Boston Public Schools for 5 years.
Okay. That's funny. I was born in Concord, Massachusetts.
Oh.
Okay. I was born in Concord, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
That's funny you said that. But when we're talking, like, just not to get off the subject, but when you said that, have you on Twitter?
I'm on
now, right?
Usually I'm on mostly on Facebook and Twitter. I'm Facebook and Instagram. Not as much on Twitter, but definitely on Facebook and Instagram. Absolutely.
Okay, the principal that's in Virginia, the white man that's in Virginia, he's like the tatted principal. You heard
what's
his
his name
before, right? That's the type of principal. I can't even think of his name off top. But when you said that about that's the type of principal he is. He's open. He wants you to be yourself. He wants you to be yourself in the classroom. As long as you're getting the kids to where they got to get to, this man has a skateboard, and this man to go skateboard in the school. Like, you tell me what type of principal that is. That's a lit principal, man. So I guarantee you, if we was to talk about this same situation, a suicidal situation with that principal, I'm pretty sure he's already instilled into his teachers, this is what we got to do to make sure that our kids don't get to this point.
All right.
And let's bring it all together.
Nah, you're absolutely right.
Too.
Yeah, we need that, but it's crazy. We're talking about teen suicides, but yet look at all the different angles that we're taking on this, because teen suicide is such a broad issue, and I think the reason why it's so broad is because it happens. It occurs in so many different ways. Like, just like we said in the beginning, it's not always the classic, I get bullied every day and it got to a point where I just killed myself, like the Cincinnati boy that got bullied, and then 2 days later he ends up hanging himself in his room. Sometimes it's just a case of, you know what? I have the perfect life. My family's doing great. I got 2 parents in my home. I'm the most popular kid in my school. You know, I'm all American. I have friends, lots of friends, people who look up to me, and even with all that, I still feel sad. I still don't feel good about myself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yes. Yeah. So just looking at this issue, I mean, we're talking about social emotional learning. We're talking about culturally responsive teaching. We're talking about this idea of restorative justice, like all these things that we hear about in education today. All these apply to teen suicide.
And on top of that, just like you said, it don't have to be it can be this. So you want to put me through some pain, so I'm gonna put you through some pain too. But instead of me putting my people through the pain of me hanging myself, I'm gonna come to school and I'm finna shoot up the whole school because I'm finna show you what the pain that I'm going through.
Oh, wow.
And then I want your parents to feel the same pain that I'm going through. So I'm finna shoot up everybody. Oh, you was the guy that talked trash about me in the classroom? You gonna be the first one to go. And he's going. Oh, you was the one that used to talk behind my back and do all this. You finna go. You get what I'm saying? Like, oh yeah, that's suicide. That suicide don't have to be just hanging yourself. That suicide could be, I'm finna go into school and get it going.
Oh,
yeah.
Because you've already made it up in your mind. It's gonna be suicidal today. And they gonna get hurt the day since you hurt me.
But you know what's crazy? We look at the shootings, right? Now, obviously, the shootings take place in a lot of different, schools. But look at the trend here. Sandy Hook. And here, right? Parkside down in Florida. What did those two in particular? Oh, Columbine. Let's not forget about Columbine, right?
Let's not forget about Columbine. Yes.
No,
yes,
that was.
Yes.
Now, I was in high school when Columbine happened. I was in high school, and I still remember that.
Exactly.
Here's common. All 3 of those schools I mentioned were in affluent, predominantly neighborhoods. In neighborhoods where the kids are considered well off. They have 2-parent households. They're not dealing with the same things that the students that we typically teach deal with. And yet, look at what happened. People come into the school, they're shooting up everybody, and people are dying. Innocent people are dying. And they're coming from what we consider well-to-do homes and neighborhoods.
Preach.
So I say that to say, with teen suicides, it's not just an affluent white neighborhood thing. No, this is happening everywhere. Matter of fact, it happens in predominantly Black and Latinx neighborhoods. But the problem is, it happens in the form of, like gun violence. It happens in the form of, drug overdose. All these other issues. But what's being reported in the news is what changes the people's perception of it. You see what I'm saying? Way they report it is different than how they report Sandy Hook, Parkside, Columbine. There's a difference in the reporting of these incidents, but yet the source is very much the same. All these things that happen stem from trauma. They all stem from a sense of anxiety and depression. But we never take the time to look at the intersectionality of those experiences.
And I was just reading something right now, and they were saying they're saying suicide is on the rise among young Americans. Of course, we just talked about it, but it's just like you said, of all races, of all races, not just one race, of
Right.
all races. And they said it's contributed to lower life expectancy overall. That's what it contributes to. They said while suicide was the 10th most common cause of death among Americans of all ages in 2017, it was second leading cause of death among young Americans ages 15 to 24.
Wow.
According to new data released on Thursday.
Wow.
Okay, and they said that between 2000 and 2007, they said the suicide rate among youth was ages 10 to 24. It said it hovered around 6.8 deaths per 100,000 people.
Wow.
And now it's like at a 56% increase in less than 2 decades.
56% increase.
So this thing yes, and like you say, this thing is serious. And then they said among black youth, suicidal attempts increased by 73%.
Oh wow.
Among black youth.
Wow. Oh wow.
That's a huge jump because suicidal attempts are the biggest risk factor linked to dying by suicide.
I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised by the statistic. Like, man, but that's telling. I mean, which is why, and I keep saying this, we really have to look into bringing more of these programs. There has to be more of a focus on social emotional learning. And it can't just be a buzzword just to sound smart. Right. We have to be serious about this work and how it can impact different communities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can we look at how can you ignore the fact that this is an issue? How can you ignore that fact?
Right. Because it's not going to go away.
You know,
it's not.
Oh man.
I ain't got nothing else to say after that. Because like I just ain't got nothing else to say because everybody was bringing that heat today.
Yeah,
everybody, man. Listen. You gonna need popcorn. You gonna need
a drink.
You gonna need something. A drink. You gonna need a catering. You gonna need something. Cause like you always told me, this when we come on these podcasts, this is the stuff that you've been wanting to say for the longest. And when you say it, one thing I can say is it is not unprofessional, because you know how most people think, but that was just unprofessional. No, it's not unprofessional.
No,
it's not. I'm telling you how I feel in a professional manner because I know who's listening. But these are opportunities because my goal, I want to be a motivational speaker. So this right here, just this alone, and you guys allowing me to come on the podcast is going to help me, because now I can take what I'm saying and I can talk, to the, because I love talking to students, but at the same time, you still have the teachers who really want to hear what we have to say too. But for the students, it shows them that, hey, you know what? I see where he's going with this. Let me take what he said and apply that to my life and see how that'll work for me. And then teachers are like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't have did X, Y, and Z. Let me go up here and do A, B, C and see how to work in my classroom. You know what I mean? So just with these topics and how we come together to talk about this stuff, it can be some good changes when it comes to education if people are willing to make that change.
Right. And then also, I mean, if we really want to address teen suicides, right, we also got to look at the way that we prepare teachers to go into the classroom. That's one. Because I'm pretty sure in most of these teacher prep programs, and I've gone through them, and just like Luther's gone through them, how much conversation is focused around this idea of social emotional learning? How much of all the classes we had to take to get our certification, what percentage of those classes focus on that aspect? I mean, myself, I would probably say anywhere from 10 to 15%.
Mm-hmm.
If yes.
Yeah.
But most of my classes were focused around educational psychology and theory. So of course we learned about Jean Piaget, Lev Vygotsky, Edward Skinner.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much education 101. If you are an educator who's going through a teacher prep program, you're going to learn about those theorists.
Exactly.
You're going to learn about, I mean, I could tell you, I could spit the zone of proximal development right now. But the question is, how's that going to help me when a child's throwing a chair at me and cursing me out? See what I'm saying? So we just have to look at the way we're preparing teachers, you know, for the classroom, because teacher attrition is real. We have teachers it's a revolving door. People are coming in and out of the classrooms because they realize how this work is. But then the question becomes, how come they didn't get that vision during their teacher prep programs? Why is it an epiphany when they finally get into the classroom? It should be an epiphany when they get into the classroom. What this job is really about, what this work is really about. So I really think that we need to be transparent when it comes to the realities of walking to a classroom and the amount of responsibility that we have when it comes to doing this work. I don't think we're always honest when it comes to that in our programs. And there's a lot of data that suggests that.
I got one better for you. I was telling them earlier, you know, the Teach grant that you get in school, right? Well, in the Teach grant, you have to go teach in a Title I school, right? So I was thinking to myself, well, why you just gotta, you get what I'm saying? You should be able to teach in any school you want to get to, not just a Title I school. But why are they saying go to a Title I school? Because that's where the shortage of teachers are, because teachers feel like they can't commute from the suburbs to what you call the urban area or the hood. Let's just go ahead and keep it real. I did a research on something. I asked my mom this. I said, Mom, I said, in Jacksonville, they have a grading system, A, B, C, D, and F. That's just how it goes. Most of your F schools come from where? Your black schools. That shouldn't even be the case, especially when there's still some good teachers in our black schools. The turnover rate goes in the black schools, or even some of your middle class schools, right? But when you go to the schools on the other side of town, like your A schools, those teachers never leave. And I found out because they're always going to get those kids who are just smarter than a smart. Their principal is one of those principals who knows somebody, if that makes sense of what I'm saying. So they have that leverage over there that they can teach how they want to teach, because at the end of the day, guess what they do know? They do know their school is going to be an A school. Even your B schools, those teachers don't leave either. But then you take one of those teachers out from a B school and put them over there in the F school, and then the first thing they want to say is, I've never in my life seen this type of misery before. Well, you can't really say that, because just because you're at an A school, all them kids ain't angels, if that makes sense to what I'm saying. But because they know somebody who knows somebody, you're not going to really hear what goes on in the A school, because they're so more focused on what's going on in those F schools and those D schools. And the first thing they want to say is all the children have mental issues, or all the children have behavioral issues, and all these kids over here shouldn't be in the general population because they're ESE. And that's not the case. You haven't experienced what it means to be a teacher. Because when you're a teacher, you're going to deal with all kinds of kids. But because you have those kids over there who come from those upper neighborhoods and things like that, they pretty much run the school. But when you have to come over here and teach, you don't know how to really be a teacher, because they never prepared you, like you said, when you were going through college. They didn't prepare you for the D and the F schools. They only prepared you for the A, B schools.
But I mean, even all this that we're saying, it all goes back to preserving the humanity of our kids. And essentially, we hear all this talk about culturally responsive teaching. hear people talk about like Zaretta Hammond, culture responsive teacher in the brain. All these other experts. And don't get me wrong, it's a good book.
Right.
But at the end of the day, being a culturally responsive teacher, it just simply comes down to good teaching. It all comes down to empathy. It's the greatest form of empathy.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you care about your students, you're gonna do everything in your power to show that you care about them. And that transcends race. That transcends race. It goes back to humanity. Like you know, I'm a father. If my son my son loves Elmo, he loves Sesame Street. So because I know he loves Sesame Street, I'm gonna try to look for books that have Sesame Street in it. I'm gonna try to look for shows that are dealing with Sesame Street because guess what? That's what he likes to watch. That's me putting forth the effort to make my son happy, to make him feel like, you know what? You know, I care. We have to take that same approach with our students, right? From day one when they come to our classrooms. That's why they tell us at the beginning of the school year, it's not just focusing on the rules and expectations, getting to know your students.
Yep.
Building the rapport with the students. Because if you don't take that first month, I didn't say 2 days, the first month to really strengthen that relationship with your students, the last 9 months are going to be hell for you. And there is so much research that can qualify what I'm saying. It's going to be hell. So we really have to take the time to just like put the books aside for a second. Let's just focus on these kids because they're coming. Because the reality is this: for some of them, the education is secondary. And why is it secondary? Because guess what? For some of these students, they're probably the primary caregivers in their homes. They're the ones who are cooking dinner for their 4 or 5 siblings.
Exactly.
They're the ones who are walking their kids to school, who are walking their siblings to school, and going and coming to school late every day because of the fact that they have to drop their sisters and brothers off to their classrooms in different schools.
Exactly.
Or maybe the fact that they come from a home where, you know what, the bus route doesn't stop at their home. Right. So as a result, they gotta walk to school, or they gotta take an Uber to school, which they can't always afford. So guess what? They walk, you know, a good half hour or so just to get to school.
And
we gotta look at these situations.
And I just realized something.
Go. Wait.
Sorry. I just realized something while you were talking about that. Even when the child gets to school, the teacher's going to be like, wow, you're late. You know, they don't understand, again, the student's story. Kind of like what Mr. Luther talked about in the previous episode with little Matthew, how he acted up in class, in a different classroom. So,
yeah.
Oh, I ain't got nothing to say. See, this why I don't come on here with you, Damon, because every time, it's always, man. I ain't finna fool with you today, man. Because we be on here for like 15 hours, man. I'm not finna play with you today, man. I'm not finna play with you today.
Look, I mean, look, I ain't got nothing really, because, I mean, There has to be like another way to really diffuse the situation and just saying why you late and get mad because the student gets late. Really? Because you don't know the story. You don't know what the student have gone through. You don't know their story. So how are you going to tell them? How are you going to ask them why are you late in an angry tone? Like you're like, oh, what happened? You know, what's wrong? You know, instead of just why are you late? And then now the student's mad because you asked them that question. Like, really?
Right. It's not always about tardiness. Sometimes it's about, in some cases, school uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
You come to school and I wear a uniform. Mm-hmm. Like I've worked in school where they had to wear uniform, and there were kids that didn't always wear uniform to school. Now, personally, I could care less about the uniform. As long as you're in school, that's what I care about. Mm-hmm. Are you here to get the knowledge or what? If the answer is yes, I could care less what you're wearing. As long as it's appropriate for school and you're not wearing anything that's like inappropriate, right?
Exactly.
I'm good. But some people just be tripping over the, school uniform rules, right? And I'm like, well, here's the thing. Have you considered the fact that maybe they can't wear the same pants 5 days a week because the washing machine ain't working? Mm-hmm. Or the fact they washed their clothes, but they didn't dry on time. Mm-hmm. So guess what? We got to wear regular clothes today. We might be able to wear the shirt. Maybe we'll wear some jeans instead of, khaki pants. If we spend more time figuring out the why, mm-hmm. the source of behavior, maybe we can minimize some of these suicides. If we just take the time to listen and to hear out our student, that'll make a huge difference. That one action can make a huge difference in their lives. Yeah.
That's the quote of the podcast right there. Quote of the podcast right there.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. After that one, man, class dismissed. I'm ready to go to lunch.
Class dismissed.
I'm ready to go to lunch, baby. I'm ready to go. This ended on a good note. Oh, and
there you go.
I followed you on Twitter too, man. So you'll see my request if you get a chance to.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you use other outlets as well. I mean, I'm pretty much LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. You can catch me on all of them.
Okay, Instagram. I'm on Instagram right now, man. You go ahead and throw it my way.
All right, I got you.
He said he's ready to go to lunch. Oh my goodness. This is why I was like, I was so excited to have you on our podcast because your energy, your personality, it's just, I like it so much. Just like it.
Ooh, Kwame or mine?
Yours, Mr. Luther.
Oh, okay. Because we both got some good personalities on here. I can talk this brother all day too. They won't want us to teach in the same school together. They be like, y'all got to go. Y'all got to go. They be like, y'all got to go. We ain't finna deal with y'all. Y'all got too much going on in here today. Got our kids coming in here on some other stuff. Yep, they show. Yep, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir, they are.
Might have to separate y'all.
In my office now. Like, oh man, I ain't even do nothing. But okay. That's what it is, though.
Okay.
But man, I thank y'all, man. I appreciate you letting me come on here. It's always a pleasure. I'm glad I got to meet Mr. Kwame, of course. Like, yeah, man, it was a pleasure.
Yes.
It was a pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Likewise.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, on Black Male Educators talking about uniforms and dress code in their last chat for 2019. So I'm gonna hop over there to check it out. Also, we talked about it in our in episode 3 in season 2. So go check it out as well. We'd like to thank Mr. Luther for joining us on this episode, and as well as Mr.
Yes.
Hello. So, the question of the day is: why do you think teens commit suicide? They pretty much answered. They pretty much answered the question right there. So. This is going to be a long and fun episode. Like we both said earlier, grab the popcorn, grab some drinks, sit down, relax, because this is going to be a long, fun one. So, it's going to be a good one. So, on the next episode, we're going to talk about why educators are more stressed at work than average people, and why is that? So we're going to talk about that on the next episode on Future Educators Talk. Of course, that's going to be it. I am your co-host of Future Educators Talk. I'm Daren Frett, because Debian is out for the remainder of December. He will be back next year in 2020. So you can follow me on Twitter on Twitter at Daren_Frett, and you can follow me on Instagram at itsFrett. Of course, Mr. Kwame will also be joining us for the remainder of December. Well, until then, I hope you enjoy the remainder of your Monday morning. See y'all on Wednesday.
Yes. Have a blessed one.
All right. Yes. Right. Take care, y'all.
All right.